Skin problems? Might want to check your bathroom. A growing number of people are getting painful skin allergies, and it's all thanks to a chemical found in everyday personal products. MI is a preservative used to prevent unwanted bacteria growth in a wide range of bath and beauty products. Though labeled safe and non-toxic, higher concentrations of the substance have been known to irritate the skin and cause a type of eczema known as contact dermatitis. Symptoms include an itchy red rash that can form blisters or become dry, cracked, and scaly. Topical medication can alleviate symptoms, but curing the inflammation usually involves avoiding the irritant completely. Although Europe has since restricted the use of MI, the substance is still allowed in the US, where it's listed as an ingredient, even in products advertised as hypoallergenic. Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support TomoNews at patreon.com/TomoNews. Keep watching for more crazy skin conditions.
Drug allergic reaction peels away 90% of students' skin. A Georgia grad student was left almost blind and without a vast majority of her skin following a rare allergic reaction to a common drug used to treat seizures and mood disorders. Meet Kalia Shah, a public health graduate student at Georgia College and State University. Back in 2013, Shah was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and prescribed lamotrigine. Within a month of taking the medication, she developed a weird rash on her face and noticed her lips were always peeling off. Doctors initially told her she had the flu, but one night she woke up with an excruciating pain and thought she was having a nightmare when her hair, face, and fingernails started to fall off right before her very eyes. Doctors decided to put the 24-year-old into medically induced coma to alleviate her pain and eventually diagnosed her with Stevens-Johnson syndrome. SJS is a rare disorder that starts off with flu-like symptoms and attacks the top layer of the skin, forming a rash that spreads into blisters. It eventually makes the layers of the epidermis shed and fall. The disease is caused by toxins from a drug or an infection, which if not treated can even prove fatal. Shah awoke after 5 weeks to find 90% of her skin, nails, and nearly all of her hair gone. The brave young woman has undergone a long road to recovery, which has included seizure treatments and months spent at a burn center. 13 months in, Shah says it still haunts her to think about what the doctors did to her at the hospital. She had to postpone her studies because of her vision and has since started a blog to cope with the impact of her unfortunate illness.
Indian farmer enjoys going all natural and has been for 40 years. Subal Burman is a 43-year-old man from a village in West Bengal, northern India, who is diagnosed with a form of dysesthesia. Dysesthesia, which is an abnormal, unpleasant sensation when someone is touched, is usually caused by damage to the peripheral nerves. The uncomfortable sensations can include pins and needles, burning, tingling, and a crawling sensation. Subal says his condition causes him excruciating pain whenever his sensitive skin comes into contact with clothing. He said ever since childhood he would experience a burning sensation whenever he was forced to wear clothing. He can't even sleep under bed sheets as the material affects his sensitive skin. Subal lives alone as a farmer and tends his fields and animals in the buff. His neighbors have gotten used to his nakedness and also know about his condition. Subal says his neighbors and the nearby villagers are used to seeing him, so it's not a big deal for anyone anymore. Subal says the weather doesn't bother him much, probably because he doesn't bother the weather. Subal explains that only summer gives him a little trouble because he has to take several baths every day because his skin is too sensitive to the heat. But the lonely farmer says his nakedness is probably what keeps him from meeting women. He says no family will allow their daughter to marry him, and what woman would want to marry a man with this kind of problem? Subal comforts himself that perhaps God sees him as someone special and views his condition as a blessing, even if it means he may be single his whole life. Community ostracizes woman with rare and gross skin disease. Pat Sherman, a 50-year-old woman living in Arizona, suffers from severe psoriasis. The disease, which some experts suspect may be genetic, is a rare skin disease that causes the skin to develop thick red welts and cover itself in rough silvery scales that look like tree bark. This is because the sufferer's immune system sends out faulty signals that causes an overproduction of new skin cells. There's no cure for the disease, although it can be managed with various creams and medications. Pat Sherman's psoriasis is so severe, it's not really manageable. manageable. The 50-year-old woman has even been thrown out of libraries because other people complained she was leaving skin flakes on the computers. The authorities told her she must bring a doctor's note if she wants to go back. Pat was also asked to leave when she tried to go for a dip in the public pool. And many restaurants and shops have also thrown her out, banned her, and just asked her to stay the hell away from them because they're all afraid she's contagious. Pat says she tries to keep her skin moisturized and is most terrified of the scaly patches covering her face. Despite her efforts, though, she often has cracked and bleeding sores at the end of each day. It's just some of the reasons Pat seldom goes out anymore, although she still maintains hope that someday people will stop seeing her as a hybrid tree monster and just appreciate her as a person instead.
Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support TomoNews at patreon.com/TomoNews. Teen born with birthmarks loves her skin and ignores the haters. A North Carolina teen born with rare birthmarks has gotten over years of bullying and learned to embrace her uniqueness. Sierra Swearingen has a rare skin condition called giant congenital melanocytic nevus, which causes moles to form in clusters covering 70% of her skin. The condition affects only 1 in every 500,000 births. Swearingen said she heard the cruelest names growing up, but over time she learned to brush off the negative comments and to love herself. She realized that most people say cruel things to her because they're not used to seeing someone with her skin condition. The 19-year-old told Hotspot Media a boy in a school bus once called her spotty dog. She should have slapped him. Swearingen said she's lucky to live in a small town where people don't bat an eye at her because they know her. If she goes somewhere else, it's not so easy. Her birthmarks cannot be surgically removed because there are far too many. They are growing and she gets new ones, but they are not life-threatening. However, Swearingen must take special care under the sun as she has a higher risk of developing melanoma, the most dangerous type of skin cancer. Swearingen hopes to attend a nevus outreach conference in the future so she can meet other people with her condition in person.
2-year-old girl fights with giant mole covering her body. A 2-year-old Taiwanese girl named Qi was born with bathing truck nevus, or giant congenital melanocytic nevi, due to mutations in her cells. The huge nevus spread from her left face, upper back, and 2 legs to most parts of her right arm, covering 10% of her body. When Chi was born, I was hesitated whether to tell my wife about the rare syndrome. I waited until she received postpartum care and spoke about it. She found it hard to accept. The elders were very worried after they saw the girl. They couldn't eat and became very anxious. But we all love her very much. Still, when we check her out, we hope that other people won't stare at her. Melanocytic nevus disrupted the formation of Chi-Chi's sweat glands within the nevus and causes her skin to crust over and itch. Chi-Chi scratches all the time, making it bleed, so her mother has to frequently apply lotion on her dry skin. Her fragile skin peels and bleeds as long as it's being rubbed. Her left arm is very dry. These are the scars from scratching. A nurse introduced us to a doctor, Dr. Zhuang Xiushu at the Linkou Chang'an Memorial Hospital, a cosmetic surgeon with experience treating such diseases. I'm not sure if it's the right decision for my daughter to undergo surgery. I set up a Facebook page to share my experience with those whose child is suffering from the same condition. Because I've also received a lot of help and support from others. This is her happiest moment.